Today I'm going to be comparing a Roxsen Speed Booster and a Micro Four Thirds the EF metal mount. So when Metabones announced the Speed Booster a while back, everyone really wanted one because it did this. Wider field of view, brighter on a smaller sensor. It reduces the Micro Four Thirds crop factor to just 1.4x, which is wider than APS-C or Super 35, and you're getting close to APS-H size sensors. But then even on the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, it takes it from a 2.88 crop factor to around a 2.0 crop factor, which is where Micro Four Thirds at. So then some other companies try to make their own version of the Speed Booster since it was so widely successful and try and sell it at a lower price point. So now there's 3 or 4 companies that have been trying to do this, and all of them are sold on eBay, and most of them are based out of China. And today we're going to be talking about a really specific one. It is the Roxsen. There are a lot of knockoff speed boosters or focal reducers that you can buy off eBay, and some of them have a little bit different markings. But the one we're going to be talking about is the one that has the M lowercase 4/3-EF. I've heard that the quality control on these is not necessarily the best, and it's going to really depend on which speed booster you get, that the results are going to really vary depending on which specific item you get. Now with that being said, I decided to test it out on 2 specific cameras. One of them being the GH1 and the other being the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. The reason I wanted to do 2 different cameras is because of the different sensor sizes. For a lot of people, they're going to be using it on a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera like I am. But I know a lot of people are going to be using it on GH1, 2, 3, 4, or any other Micro Four Thirds sensor. And I wanted to give the Speed Booster the best possible chance at succeeding at what it's supposed to do. And so that's why I decided to test it out on 2 cameras. I want the Speed Booster to have to also deal with the corners and as much of the image circle as it possibly can, whereas the Blackmagic is more of just picturing the center of the Speed Booster. So I've had this Speed Booster for a few months now, and I really gotten to know it, and so this is just kind of a comparison and a test to show you what I've noticed and what I've learned from using it. For all the example shots you're going to see, I used my 35mm t1.5 Bauer Cinema lens. That's the equivalent of f1.4. Very standard lens, also made by Roxsen and Samyang. It's just a really awesome lens, and I would highly recommend it. So all the test footage you're going to see and all the comparisons, we're using the 35mm t1.5 Bauer lens. Panasonic GH1 is a really awesome camera, and if you don't have a camera, that is one you should really look at, because right now they're only about $100 on eBay, and that price is going to continue to go down. Phenomenal camera for $100, 12 megapixel stills and 1080p full HD recording, and you can even put a hack on there, which I did with my camera, that records at 100 megabits per second with my SanDisk Extreme Pro card, which I can also use my Blackmagic camera to record RAW. And the reason I did that, especially for this test, was because I wanted it to be as little compression as possible, because that's going to be huge when we're zooming in to see how much softness that there is with this Speed Booster, or if there is any at all. So in this first set of examples, we're going to see the GH1 with the Speed Booster and then just the regular mount adapter. Now, what I really noticed from this first set of examples is not necessarily a distinct loss in sharpness, which really surprised me, considering that the optics haven't been considered the best. And I mean, I didn't really pay for the best optics when I was buying this, so I wasn't really expecting that, especially on the GH1, so that's really awesome. But what I did notice was there's a significant loss in contrast. For me, that's not huge. You can always bring the contrast up in post, but that's not what you want. That's just a sign that it's poor quality optics and you're probably losing out on a little bit of detail in there because of that. So I was really expecting the speed booster to be soft, and it just wasn't on the GH1, and so that was really surprising to me. Now on the second set of tests, I brought the Blackmagic camera inside to give it a little bit of a different lighting setup, a little bit harsher light instead of the soft light that was outside because it was a rainy day. And so I pointed at my Coke bottle first and put the speed booster on in the regular adapter, and noticed that the Coke logo was actually really soft and kind of was glowing. And so I decided to continue on and do a full set of tests with the speed booster on the Blackmagic camera. But on the Blackmagic camera, you can clearly tell that the speed booster is softer. Why that happens, I'm not entirely sure. That's why it surprised me so much that it wasn't soft on the GH1, because I haven't used the GH1 very much since I got my Blackmagic camera, and I just assumed it would be the same results. And what I'd really like to point out is that even stopped down to T2 or T2.8 didn't fix the softness issue like I was expecting it to when looking at the longboard. You can clearly tell there's a lot more detail by just using the metal mount adapter. So if you are using a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, I would almost recommend waiting and saving up for the Metabones speed booster if you can, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera specific one. That's what I'm going to try and do, and hopefully get one here soon, and I might be able to compare the Roxsen one versus the Pocket Cinema camera one. The other reason to not get the Roxsen adapter for the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera is because the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera has a really thick micro four thirds mount. Not really thick, but just slightly thicker, a couple millimeters, so that way any micro four thirds lens that you get just sits really tight and solid in there. But the Roxsen adapter kind of tried to do the same thing and sit really tight in the micro four thirds adapters, and so when you put it on the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, you actually have to twist it pretty hard, and it actually grinds some metal shavings off of the Roxsen adapter, and so that's pretty scary the first time you get it if you don't know what you're doing with that. So that's another reason to not really get the Roxsen adapter, but the Blackmagic Pocket specific camera one, and then you won't have that issue with that. That's just one more reason to wait for the Metabones adapter instead of getting the Roxsen one. It's not worth it to get it for the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. At least that's my opinion. I'm glad I have it, especially for my GH1. I'm going to be using it all the time with that now, but I may switch from using the speed booster on the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera to just going back to the metal regular mount. But if you're just going to be using a GH1 or a GH2 micro four thirds camera, maybe it isn't so much worth it to wait unless you do need the IS. That is one thing. This doesn't have any electronics in it, so any IS lens or Canon lens that you have isn't going to be able to update the aperture through the camera, or the IS just isn't going to work because there's no power to it. I didn't really notice a lot of issues with the speed booster other than just the loss of contrast, which again, like I said, isn't a huge thing. So if you pick up a GH1 or a GH2 as a B camera and you just want a speed booster to give you that 1.4x crop factor, yeah, maybe the Roxsen speed booster is the way to go.